Hi there, I'm looking at the Adobe Illustrator 2014 release, but this is the one prior to the June 2015. But the picker works the same. I just wanted to make sure that you guys could see that. Hi, I am just going to do a quick tutorial here for those of you who are still a little unfamiliar with the color picker. So I'm in Illustrator. This is 2014 version, CC 2014, the one right prior to the June 2015 release, but it should be, well, the color picker works the same. So what you do here is once you choose your specific, color set that you want from one of these color wheels, let's just say, for example, that I do a triad. So I'm just going to use the line tool right here, right there, in order to choose, just a really simple thing. These don't have to look absolutely perfect. Like, that would be fine. It's not absolutely perfect, but, it'll do the trick. I can clearly see that you've chosen 3 from the triad palette. Okay, so now your job, depending on what your term you wanted, was, and I gave there's a basic set of rules, not rules, but a way to approach this assignment. For me, it'd be like, okay, well, do I have something in mind already? If I don't, that's my first task. So I think it's probably more fun to choose a set of things rather than just one. So rather than just be like happy, that's a pretty generic thing. You could do like happy in the spring, and then your colors will be, it'll just be easier for you to choose your color. So if that's the case, then I've chosen these 3 colors. Perhaps maybe that wasn't the best set, but you get the idea. So then now, if I'm going to choose some colors, I just go ahead and choose that particular one that I want, okay? The other thing you could do is if you know that you want at least 5 of them to be, let's say, reds, you could use your Shift key and the selection tool to select 5, okay? That would be one way to start. And then you would switch your tool to the eyedropper tool, and then you can, let's say we, go ahead and click them on all the reds. Okay, so those could be all reds. From there, you can then, let's say you do leave one that's pure red, that's fine. Then you go over here and you go to your toolbar and you can double click on this front color here. Now you get the color picker and you can do whatever you want. So for example, if I'm talking about spring, I'm probably going to want pinks. And again, I can just double click again on the color picker and choose, whatever else that I might want. My goal here is to make sure I choose colors that are distinct from each other. You don't want anything that's too similar, because one of these palettes is going to be used for your next assignment, and I have to be able to identify all 16 colors. And if they are too similar to each other, I can't do that. Nor is it easy for you to be able to identify which parts of your composition to put a new color in. So make sure that they are steps enough different that I won't mistake one for the other. So for example, if this is the pure color and I go like that, it might seem different, but in a composition later on, it might be hard to identify the differences between these two, depending on your background colors and if complementary contrast or simultaneous contrast is happening. You never know exactly what the situation could be. So I would recommend, just a titch more dark if I'm going to do that, just so it really does, sometimes it doesn't take much to really, now I don't think there's a way that I could mix those two together. So I hope that makes sense. And then finally we'll do the last one. Now there are a couple other different ways that you can get your colors to happen. If instead, let's say I go ahead and select a few more and I decide that all of these, and I just use just the letter I, that's the hotkey for it. If you hover long enough, you'll see hotkeys, and that one just says eyedropper I. Okay, so now I can do my yellows. Now yellows are a little tricky because they're easy to, as soon as you get into tones or shades, you get green, which could be helpful to you. Actually, in this case, it might be helpful. So the other way that I can get some color shifts is if I choose color here over in my windows, if you don't see this kind of thing, it's not a big deal. I personally have mine set on essentials, and you can always reset essentials. You can try all these different settings here depending on what you're doing, but essentials usually works for most stuff. But you could also bring up the color from here, and it brings that up. I don't recommend that you shift any of these around. You can change their modes here. The reason I don't suggest you switch it here is because you could actually be shifting it to a different hue completely. If I move this, I'd be into the yellow oranges. It's no longer yellow. If I move this, I'm over into the greens, which is no longer yellow. So the best bet again is to bring up your color palette. I would not recommend you use this either, even though you can click on it and double click here, and this again brings up your color picker. And so that would be a way to change it. And I'm going to select a different one. Another way would be to use your color swatches. I don't recommend this. You can't really bring up the color picker this way. So it's fine in other situations, but in this one it's not going to be very helpful. So I'm actually going to go back. I shifted the hue already on myself. So I'm going to use the eyedropper tool again. Once more, click on this so I get the, oh, I did get the right one, okay. So I can go back to the swatches, double click on here. Once more, I get my colors. So I hope that makes sense. There's at least 3 different ways in which you can get your colors. And as you move through, you are also welcome, by the way, to add white, gray, or black to your palette as well. You could even technically do 2 grays if you really know that it's very important for your composition. And yeah, that should do it. Let me know if you have any questions or if you need anything further, but I hope that that will solve that issue. Make sure you also write the term. So, you know, you would, for this one, you would switch to the T tool and then just type in whatever, oh, what did I put? Happy in spring. And that is that.